everybody, it's Jeremy. Welcome back to Lucid's 2022 Tournament Game 4, where we are playing Nazca. This is turn 67. It's a little bit of a light one, so let's go ahead and jump into it, shall we? Not a lot of... No research, no crazy drones or globals or anything like that. We're just putting along. We did an augury, we didn't find anything. We did gnome lore, we didn't find anything. We're not really expecting to find much with these last couple site searches, but we are hopeful, right, that we'll get something out of it. We do get to watch a battle in the Spire of Ascension between Vanheim and Vanarus. And it's a big battle. Like, this is a legit fight. So, pretty cool, right? We've got a big ol' army of Van. But mostly, I say big ol' army. There's plenty here, but it's not a massive chaff army, right? Like, it's got some piles of our favorite corpse constructs, good old boys. We've got a storm demon mixed in here. That's funny. Got some in the backs, corpse constructs and long dead and things like that. And then it's got two big lines of actual Vans. And then a little stack of Einheirs. So that's kind of cool. And then it has a very big, I say very big, has a very stalwart mage core. Couple of Vanheirs. These guys are killers, right? Super combat killers, thug killers, that type of thing. Set up just to chop chop. We've got a bunch of Windmasters in here. We've got a bunch of Shamans in here. We've got some Dwarven Smiths mixed all in. A Puriphlegaton, that's kind of cool. So this is, we can expect, gonna be able to do a whole host of things. And then on the Vanarus side of things, we have I think we saw this last turn. We have a bunch of Sea Trolls, and then some of the Troll Guards. We have some actual Trolls. And then we have some Chewed Herdmen, which are kind of like the Vanarusian version of the Einhair, just not as awesome, because their Berserk is less, I believe. Right? Einhairs get Berserk 5. 19 points. 19 hit points? Oh, they're in Gift of Health. I was like, 19? What the fuck? Right, so, just a little different, but they're in the same vein, right? And then Van has a bunch of their air mages or mixed mages. They have a Troll King and a Sea King here. They have a Vanabog here. Two Vanabogs, actually. And then a couple of their priests. In the back, we've got some Skin Shifters, and we got a Monolith. So, a lot of stuff on the field. Turn on the colors. I love red versus blue in this particular instance. Howl has been auto-cast by the not auto-cast, but immediately cast by the innate spellcaster Monolith, right? Foul Vapors is going up. Up Foul Vapor. Might not have happened yet. Foul Vapors goes up. Niob the Great Bear. Foul Vapor. The Great Bear. Oh. Okay, so Foul Vapor's put up by a Naiad over here with Vanheim. We got a bunch of air elementals coming out, it looks like. There's a Wailing Winds from the Vanarusian side of things. Bunch of air elementals out, bunch of air elementals up. We get a Howl cast on the side of Vanheim. And then we get a firestorm out from the Pyrrhophlegyton. Okay, so this is a big deal. Van has what looks like Army of Gold up. Van has Regeneration up. Van has Fog Warriors up. Van has fucking the God, my mind's blanking. Everyone Gets Lucky. Will of Fate's up. Wind Guide up. Van has everything. Van has all of the things. All of the resistance buffs, it looks like. Oh, weapons of sharpness going off on everything. This is scary. This is scary, and this is why I say things like, I don't think we can fight Van. Because we see stuff like this and we're like, oh yeah, they've got everything in a battle. They are good to go. They've got it all at the ready. Including something like Firestorm, which we just do not have the capabilities of throwing out in a battle for ourselves. The Firestorm is falling. That being said, Vanarus has, I think, a couple of things going on for themselves. No, they do not. They don't have any of that stuff. They don't have, I think, any of the buffs coming out, right? We're not seeing any Army of Gold. We're not seeing any Mass Regeneration. We're not seeing any Fog Warriors. We're not seeing any of the elemental buffs. We're not seeing any attack globals. We got Howl, and we've got some Thunder Strikes, and that is that. Wailing Winds, yeah. Wailing Winds is good, but Wailing Winds is not going to matter, I think, in a situation like this. Well, I say that. It is causing some people to rout, you know? But I think Vanheim is still going to win. And they didn't even need the Vans with Weapons of Sharpness. Not all of them got Weapons of Sharpness. That's good, at least. So, not blanket coverage. That's a scary fight. Oh, God. Vanheim attacks Vanarus with an army of 170 versus 151. And annihilates, obliterates that army. 7 deaths. 6 of them being corpse constructs. Which are the very definition of just chaff, right? And a corpse construct's entire job is just to stand there and siege something down or take a hit in the face. Ay. The Adept of Pyrrhophlegyton got a lot of kills. Good portion of that is due to killing wolves out of both of the Howls, so that probably isn't that big of a deal. But, I mean, that matters. That absolutely matters. That's a big fight. That's a big fight and a big win for Vanheim. And I don't think Vanarus has many of these stacks in them, truth be told. So that's kind of frightening. That might mean that the Vanarus Arco versus Vanheim Ulm turns rapidly into a Vanheim Ulm versus Arco type situation. Because Vanarus might not have much more to say about the scenario. So that's a little concerning with our game plan, right? Our game plan being is the hopes that these two groups kind of like duke it out for a long time, not exhaust themselves, because I think we're past the point where they can exhaust themselves in a game necessarily, as long as they're evenly matched. But the hope is that they stalemate each other and we get to do other shit. So that's pretty interesting, but also pretty scary. We have an unexpected event in Pavonia. Foreign priests have infiltrated the local church of Odysseus, guardian of the Tablets of Destiny. Corrupted central tenets of faith. What the fuck? Dominion change. So, events for the turn, we have 1 negative and 0 positive. Just Pavonia Dominion change. Eh. As far as negative events go, that's not the worst that we could deal with, so I'll take it. I'll take it. Worldwide event has occurred. The arena battle that we saw 3 turns ago, foresaw 3 turns ago, is firing this turn. So we were aware of that. We prepped for that. Finished out a construction fortress in Forgotten Woods. I apologize. I'm still congested, still a little under the weather. But we will make it through. Okay, cool. So that is... that's kind of like the long and short of this turn. Not a lot going on there, unfortunately. And not a lot probably going to happen in the very near future. We are sending out multitudes of scouts. You can see lots of scouts moving around. And we're probably going to be recruiting more scouts as we move forward. Again, I want to get more and more of all of this area covered. We're potentially going to send scouts underwater with water bracelets, maybe even hire like some black servants to conjure some black servants to go underwater, that type of thing. We'll see how it goes. But just because there wasn't a whole lot going on in this message doesn't mean that there's not a fair amount going on in the actual mechanics of the turn, even though we don't see a lot of movements or anything like that, but we'll see how it goes. First thing that we have going on that we want to talk about is Hughlek, the current arena champion, is heading back to the arena this turn, kitted out as so. I don't really know why I have a smasher on him, just for shits and giggles, I suppose. This is a... yeah, pretender gods and disciples are not allowed to compete, right? But I don't know. I guess I was just paranoid that someone was like have charmed a monolith or some shit. I don't know. So I sent him in with a smasher because I mean it still hits hard. It's still, you know, you can still smack someone in the face with it. And really what we're looking for here, the goal that we have on Hughlek is super high defense skill. We've given him a cat charm. He's got 31 defense, and we're hoping, right, combination of high defense, awe, regeneration, luck, right, and decent protection. 27 versus mundane attacks, though it's very possible they won't be mundane, means that he won't get hit, and the Scutata Volturnus Shocking Grasp will be able to kill anything that he himself might not be able to hit or kill. Right, so that's the kind of goal. Fingers crossed to Hughlek on the other side. And yeah, so there's that. Aside from that, we are continuing to maneuver around Hatenruna to try to cover the entirety of our empire. And we've got some new things that we are doing that we'll talk about as we... Sorry. Text. That's insane. Okay. So yeah, not a whole lot of crazy stuff, but just making progress forward. Let's talk about recruitment for the turn. Recruitment, we have 2 Runankas, 1 Akla, 1 Inca, 5 Sun Guard, and 2 Dinashi. So still not able to recruit a very large amount of units because our upkeep is very high. Our income is kind of in the toilets. I've been considering... we don't really have a lot of them, but we do have a little chunk of koyas that cost 130 gold a year, right? So we've got like 5, 6, 7, 8, I think, koyas hanging around that we could turn to Solus, right? So, what... It costs us like, yeah, this is not even that big of a deal. They cost us like 80 gold a month, right? And at this point we're actually starting to get a lot of Hatenruna that even with the low amount that they cost, they are starting to cost us a little amount each month. So it's a little sketch. We really need to be fighting someone else. We really need to be expanding our capabilities as far as income goes, but we don't really have a lot of options at the moment, so we're just kind of suffering and making do with things, right? So, is what it is. And insofar as what we're looking for there, the Runanka are, again, mostly just because I'm nosy and I want to see what's going on. And I'm also trying to show things in our little lull, things like this battle, right? So kind of doing that. And then the Akla research Inca. We actually just need a few more Incas to be able to make sure that we can lead armies in multiple different fronts throughout our borders. And then everything else is pretty normal. So, moving on to the next thing. Nazcan recruits for the turn. We actually dipped to 40 Haten Runa this turn. 126 Long Dead Warriors, so we are going up slightly. 16 recalled Supayas, going up slightly. 1 summon Supaya for 7 Supayas. And then 1 summon Huaka for 7 Huakas. So, we are making progress each turn as this stuff kind of continues. Was this our first turn? No. This is going to be the first turn. So Long Dead Warrior production is going up. Supaya production is going up slowly but surely. This is still not the turn in which I remember the Ultimate Gateway, so Sadness Hero, but it is what it is. Everything else is relatively normal. We got special recruits continuing with 1 Dire Wolf and 1 Dustwalker for the turn. How many Dire Wolves do we have now? We have 20 Dire Wolves. It feels like we have so many more. It feels like we have been doing this forever. But I guess technically we've been doing it for longer than 20 turns because there was like a 2-turn gap where we had to kind of like break, but still, is what it is. Okay, let's jump into the rituals for the turn. We got a couple of interesting rituals. So rituals for the turn, we've got 1 Augury, and then we get into new stuff, and that is 6 Revive Kings, 1 Contact Naiad, which is not using the Ultimate Gateway, so wah wah, and then 1 Dome of Solid Air. So this is actually some new stuff, and I do want to talk about it. What are we doing here? So we'll go in order. We're doing Revive Kings kind of all throughout our empire. Why are we doing Revive Kings? Okay, we have the ability to lead undead units, large amounts of undead units, on basically every Huron priest that we have. However, Huron priests are our most valuable battle mages, and they're also a huge portion of our research, right? So using them to maneuver around large stacks of long dead warriors is entirely possible, but it is also a cost in that we are losing their research and potentially their power in presence in locations, right? It also makes it somewhat dicey to lose, right? Like throwing a king, a mound king at a province with 100 long dead on it is one thing. Throwing a Huron priest at it is another thing. The part of that other thing is cost, right? Like opportunity cost. Is that Huron priest going to survive? Can it get killed? Even if it dies, right, it turns into a Valkyrie priest, which is, you know, not a horrible thing for us necessarily, but at the same time, it does mean that that priest is not, it's not researching, and it's not a part of a larger magical conflict. Though there could be opportunities where that is actually a good thing. The other thing with the opportunity cost, specifically if we're going underwater, is that I have to outfit the fuckers with rings of water breathing, right? So if we rely on Huron priests to move around our long dead troops, we don't have the flexibility to move them in as great a numbers, and in as many locations as we want without heavily relying on large amounts of gear when we need that gear to put mages into big battles. Okay? So, even though it is a little costly for us from the death gem kind of side of things, and I would rather be using these death gems for other scenarios, we are probably, I don't know if we're going to take multiple turns doing this, but we're probably going to see this happen every once in a while where we're like, okay, we need a wave of kings. And then we just do like 6 kings in a turn. Or, okay, we need a wave of, X. We'll just do a whole bunch of that in a turn. So that is what's going on with these kings. We're going to have mound kings all over the empire, and their whole job is to ferry around or patrol with large amounts of long dead, right? So that's the other thing is Huron priests can move around lots of long dead, but they don't want to sit there and patrol. We could, right? But then they're not preaching, they're not researching. Unfortunate. So that's that situation. The contact naiad is part of our plan to try to diversify. Unfortunately, again, I have forgotten that at this point in the game, I have basically forgotten that Ultimate Gateway even fucking exists. So my mind is elsewhere, and I'm not really thinking about it. So we are losing gems, I think, to the tune of like 14 water gems off of this. But contacting naiad is going to get us a Nature 3, Water 3, which is a really good caster. The issue is that it is a homesickness caster. Homesickness being an effect where if they are outside of their original home province, they will take HP damage every turn until they die, right? So that's not good. But the naiad can actually get rid of that by doing transformation. And we can fish. We actually saw that in this battle. This Great Bear would have been a naiad previously, right? Because it was Nature 3, Water 3. And just like that, we can also fish for transformations. We are luck 3. So we have a better chance of getting better transformations. We can and we probably will fish for a decent transformation, maybe like an Etten or Hill Giant or something like that, and see what we get there. We kind of want something with a bunch of gear slots. We could go for an animal like a bear, or a manticore would be really cool, right? A chimera, I think, is an option. Those are neat, and they have lots of HP, but they don't have a lot of gear slots, and I kind of would prefer to have something with a lot of gear slots. I think having a kind of pimped out naiad would be a good tool against Pelagia. It can do, 1, water is really strong underwater. 2, nature can still be really strong underwater. And water and nature can actually do foul vapors. So if Pelagia is not expecting us to jump into the water with a naiad a naiad in a different chassis, then that could be something that we kind of like hit them from the side with, so to speak. So that's just something that we're gonna mess around with, have a little side project as far as that goes. Maybe fish for some dope ass chassis, and we'll see how it goes. And here's the other thing: when fishing for a chassis, you run the risk of not the risk of the unit dying, but the risk of getting a bad result. And specifically, that bad result normally comes with the feeble mind affliction. That sucks, but we can heal the feeble mind affliction, right? It's difficult, but we can just stick the unit in the province with Mama Pacha, or bring Mama Pacha to the capital, and we can heal the feeble-minded affliction. And in point of fact, actually, it's something that we could play around with for an almost limitless duration. We'll see how it goes. And then we have Thula, our Queen of Thunder, throwing up a dome of solid air on Nazca. We're also probably going to throw it on Satrandith. We're also probably going to throw it on both Olifa and Forgotten Woods. Dome of solid air is just a solid defensive mechanic as we move into the late game to prevent people from bombarding us or even scrying on us. Those types of things. So, should be pretty interesting. that is that. After talking about rituals, we got to talk about the ultimate gateway and what we have lost rather than what we have saved. I promise we will eventually remember that it exists and start saving gems rather than not saving gems. But this turn we lost 14 water, 6 astral lost, and 4 death lost from not using the gateway to its fullest potential. And then we have some forging, and forging, we've actually got some interesting stuff this turn as well. I think it's we've got kind of all over the place. We've got forging. Normally, I try to have, like, forging in a singular province. I don't know why, it's just the way my mind works, but we've got forging everywhere in this particular game. So, we have forging for the turn. We have 1 lightless lantern, 2 water lenses, 1 dwarven hammer, 1 skull mentor, 2 amulets of the dead, and 1 ring of water breathing. So, that is a little bit of new stuff. Let's talk about that real quick. Lightless lantern, water lenses, dwarven hammer, skull mentor, that's all normal stuff. We're either trying to increase our efficiency as far as dwarven hammers go. We're boosting research as far as lightless lanterns and skull mentors go. Water lenses for our hydromancers. The other things are the new things, and that's where things kind of get interesting. Ring of Water Breathing is kind of an obvious scenario. We were talking about that earlier. We need ways to get underwater. We're going to have a lot of them, so we're just getting to that point to where we're probably going to do, like, at least 1 a turn, so we can build up this pool of water entry items and go from there. So that'll be useful for us. We're going to need dozens of those types of items. Some specifically for commanders and others for pulling in troops, because Supayas can go underwater, but Supayas and Long Dead can go underwater, but none of the rest of our troops can. And even though they're not going to be amphibians, we probably do still want some of our troops to go underwater, like namely things like our Huacas, right? So Huacas have such good stats that they will probably still do okay, even when they have water fighting penalties. And they can hold a front line, whereas Long Dead really aren't going to hold a front line. And specifically, while Supayas are flying into the rear, Huacas can actually kill water elementals, right? So water elementals notoriously are extremely dangerous, especially underwater. But Huacas actually hit with magic weapons and hit hard enough that they can delete water elementals from size 6 down. So it is a useful situation. So yeah, that's gonna be a thing that we're moving towards basically every turn. And then the Amulets of the Dead are kind of like a new thing. I've talked about the Amulets of the Dead as a concept probably a couple times throughout the game, especially as we started to use Malquai Priests more and more to generate Long Dead. And this is something that we've been looking forward to for a while, and it's just an efficiency thing. So, Amulets of the Dead, I guess let's just check someone. Amulets of the Dead are greater magic items, so that is construction 4, right? And it costs 5 death, 3 with a hammer, and it gives you the spell Animate Skeleton. We don't care about that. It gives you a little bit of undead command. We don't really care about that. We care about this divine reanimation bonus and ritual reanimation bonus. And what this specifically does is it means that whenever you are casting a spell, like the reanimation spell, if you have this equipped, you will create 2 more fucking whatever you're reanimating. Skeletons, specifically, right? But it does work on ghouls, long dead, or soulless, depending on what you're doing. Or if you are doing the priestly version of it, which we are doing through our Malquai Priest, the divine version, every time you do a divine reanimation, it will do 2 additional of whatever you're reanimating. So this means that rather than having or getting 7 long dead out of a Malquai Priest's reanimation, we will get 9 long dead out of a Malquai Priest reanimation. And it's like, oh, plus 2 skeletons for 3 death gems does not sound like a very good trade. And it's not. That's a horrible trade. right? That is absolutely a horrible trade. Which is why that's not the trade, right? The trade is the idea that we put these on every Malqui priest we have, which I think is 18. It's either 16 or 18 right now. We can actually check really easily. We have 126 divided by 7. It's 18. So we have 18 Malqui priests working right now. 18 Malqui priests produce 126 Long Dead. If they all had amulets of the dead on, they would produce 36 more per turn. After a few turns, that 36 really adds up. And to be more specific from a scenario, if we talk about casting reanimation. Reanimation costs 3 death gems, so 3 death gems to create an amulet of the dead, right? But it creates 10 fucking Long Dead. So it takes us 5 turns of reanimating to equate to that single turn cost of a reanimation. It takes us 5 turns with an amulet of dead up, right? But after that 5 turns, and even during that 5 turns, right? Like, I've talked about the idea in the past, right? It's not the bank that you have necessarily, it's how much you can... Although having a bank of thousands and thousands and thousands of Long Dead really is important, but it's also how much can you produce in a turn, right? Just in the concept of like magic gems, it's not always like, do you have a bank of 500 gems? Cool, that's great. How many do you produce in a turn, right? Because if you produce 5 gems in a turn, that's when you run out of that bank, you're not going to be able to do much, right? But if you produce 40 per turn, it's like, yeah, that bank could go bye-bye, and you can still be like, yeah, I'm fucking rolling, let's go, right? So same type of principle here. It is an investment to get started, right? For the 18 Malqui priests that we have, that's going to be... Actually, that's not that many. That's going to be 54 death gems. We make 34 death gems in a turn. So 2 turns, less than 2 turns worth of death gems. And we will be able to outfit all of our Malqui priests with amulets of the dead, and they'll be generating 2 extra Long Dead every turn. And we don't plan to stop at 18 Malqui priests, right? Like, we plan to go up to 20, 30, 40 Malqui priests eventually, and at that point, each one of them producing 2 Long Dead every single turn, an additional 2 Long Dead every single turn, really starts to get a little nutty, right? When you start to get to the point to where you are producing hundreds, like 400, 500 plus Long Dead in a turn, that's kind of absurd. And at that point, when you have so many Malqui priests involved in that production line, 2 per priest really actually does start to matter, right? I mean, someone can... I'm not good with math, but 9 versus 7 is like a 25% increase? Not correct. That's not correct at all. I mean, it's not far off. It's like a 30% increase, isn't it? Right? Something like that. I refuse to actually... I'm sitting here... I refuse to actually do the math. But it is what it is. So yeah, that's kind of the game plan. We are probably going to do at least... We might do more, but we're probably going to do at least 2 Amulets of the Dead every turn for the foreseeable future. Just equipping all of our Malqui priests with that, increasing the amount that we are producing Long Dead wise every single turn. Because again, we want to get to that point to where we can throw 1,000 Long Dead spread out over 10 provinces at Pelagia in a single turn. And Pelagia can kill all of them, right? But killing each and every one of them is going to be some sort of opportunity cost for Pelagia. They're going to have to commit something. They can't just go, oh, here's one water elemental caster to kill 100 long dead. It won't work, right? They're gonna have to do, here's a thug to kill 100 long dead, or here's a small stack of a small army, right, to kill 100 long dead, or here's 3 water elemental casters will probably do it, right? You know, depending on the style and if they're equipped with anything or what have you, right? But each of those costs something. And obviously what we're doing costs as well, but ours is the idea of setting up basically free recursive scenarios, right? Where we're like, great, you killed 1,000 of those, here's another 1,000. Cool, you killed 1,000 of those, here's another 1,000, right? We want to get that set up where we're producing as much free shit in theory as we can every single turn. So, and I just talked like 5 minutes about just the concept of a Amulet of the Dead and how it can be incredibly beneficial in the situation. If we got up to, I mean, just theoretically, right? Like if we had 40 Malqui priests and we had 40 Amulets of the Dead on them, that's 80 additional long dead every single turn. 80 additional long dead every single turn. And we're only producing 120 of them right now. That's 126, but whatever. You get my point. So, that is kind of like the immediate concept, and that is how we are scaling. We will also eventually remember the ultimate gateway, and we'll start scaling in that way as well. And then we'll have not only the efficiency of hammers, but we'll also have the efficiency of a gateway going, and we'll see how this all turns out. This is turn 67. I think our goal, right? I think our goal is going to be turn 80. Right? If we are able, if the game is able to sustain itself for that long, because right, we have Vanheim attacking Vanarus, and Vanarus is very small over here, but we do have a powerful Arco, and a somewhat weakened, like recovering, not out of the game, but recovering Ulm over here, and this 80 idea is just kind of like a ballpark. I don't know. We could be ready. We could definitely be ready sooner than that. It just kind of depends on what opportunities we have. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Research-wise, we will have Alteration 7 next turn, which is a big deal. Alteration 7 is going to be Mass Protection, which means we can actually not immediately die in certain things. Mass Protection and Fog Warriors, both very, very, very big deals. Fog Warriors is somewhat more difficult for us to cast because, well, just because. Whereas Mass Protection is very easy for us to cast. Even with our limited actual nature, we have other sources of nature. Fog Warriors, though, we can get up with our Fairy Queen and with our Queen of Air. So we'll see how that goes. And then we're actually going to take, I was very, very, very much considering just jumping straight into Alteration 9, but we're going to take some detours. We're going to hit Thaumaturgy 5 because of a couple of different reasons, primarily because of Gateway, actually. We want to be able to gateway to proper locations if we need to. Try to move armies around, that type of situation. And then Enchantment 7 is going to be a pretty big deal for Serpent's Blessing. And a couple of other things, obviously, right? But Serpent's Blessing being the primary reason that we are concerned with it. So we got that scenario going on. Obviously, I think if we're aiming for turn 80, we're going to try to hit Enchantment 8, right? For all of the goody fins and the mass regeneration concept. Right, we're going to try to hit Alt 9, 8 for Will of the Fates, and also, again, elemental buffs and things like that. Disintegrate being a pretty big one for us. Time Stop potentially being a pretty big one for us. Wizard's Towers being a pretty big one for us. But, again, getting to 9 being Army of Gold, Army of Lead, that type of situation. So that's kind of, I think, our initial goal, is to try to make sure by the time shit pops off, we have hit Enchantment 8 and Alt 9, so that we can field most of the big buffs that we will be looking for. And I think we can definitely do that. I think we are approaching that point to where we're hopefully going to make up the difference, basically. And with with a Skull Mentor and a Lightless Lantern every turn, I think we're doing pretty decent. Okay, I have waxed poetically longer than I had intended. That's going to be the end of this video. I'm very congested. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Ah!
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. It really helps me out. If you'd like to see me live, head over to my Twitch at twitch.tv/thedistanthorizon.